Hopefully I don't lose you all. There we go. Okay, great. Good evening, everyone. It's great to have everyone here. There's quite a lot of you on tonight, and I'm hoping to be able to provide you with some really good help and assistance and guidance and support with your first assignment that is due next week, Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken. So yes, and please feel free to, what I will do is I will go through one question at a time, and then I will give you a moment or two of the questions or anything else that needs to be clarified. Thanks, Mersha. Yes, I thought it was the 26th. Okay. Okay, and welcome also to Diana, who's on this session with us. She is the other online tutor for this particular module for the other group. And the way that we run our national support sessions, we normally, one person leads it and then the other OT is present for any questions or just clarification. So she's also on this call or on this session. And so if there's anything that I don't understand, I'm hoping, I know she will be able to clarify. Okay, so before I get started, is there anything out there that I need to be aware of? Is everybody okay? Can we get going? I don't want to start and then find out afterwards that there's some problems. Is there anything? Okay, Anna, great you're here. All good. We're good. Okay. All right. So please don't feel go. Thanks, Frank. You didn't say on your marks and get set. So if there's anything that that you're not sure of, you want to stop me, please feel free to either put your mic on or to pop something in the chat and I will stop and go back. Okay, so for your first assignment, we're not going to get too pedantic and too crazy and too what's the word? Okay, Taryn, all good. Not, yeah, I don't want to become too, as I say, pedantic in marking the first assignment. So normally this assignment is just used for you to understand the way you need to present your assignments, and then obviously just an idea of what is expected of you. What I've done is, and I'm going to go through this one thing at a time, and I see there's some strange lines here for question 1.1, not too sure why, but never mind, they're not there on the original. But just really some rough guidelines as to how we are going to be allocating the marks. I normally find these rubrics tend to be a bit, should I use a nice word, a bit vague in terms of their what's the word, their grammatical, syntactical explanation or instruction or what they actually require. And there's always a lot of ambiguity, I just find, in these rubrics. And so I like to unpack it for each question so that you know exactly what to focus on and where your marks will be allocated. It really just everyone. It helps you and it helps us when we do the marking. Okay, so the question one lines are not there. Oh, okay, great. All right, they are on my screen for some strange reason. I've got very strange lines going through, but that's okay. So first of all, the kind of just what we would say is sort of in-house rules or logistics or whatever around the actual presentation of your assignment. It's always helpful if everybody follows the same kind of format. It really makes marking a whole lot easier. It just helps you to your eye to find what you're looking for and to be able to mark without still trying to think, is this question one? Question two, where am I? Who is this? Etc. Etc. So if you could, first of all, the most important thing is your referencing. And on your assignment, the second page is a whole referencing rubric guide. Please read it before you start. Even if you have done this a million times, I really strongly advise that you read through that. I know you're all postgrad students, so plagiarism should not be something that's on your radar at all. You should be very familiar and very aware of how to reference, but just go through the IIE specific policy with regards to reference. We are really strict, and we will deduct either between 5 and 10% if you've not done it correctly, and if you have omitted a reference list or in-text referencing, you do stand the chance of getting 0 for your assignment. So please don't jeopardize your results just because you have omitted something silly like referencing and referencing. So just please be aware of that. Good question, Vanessa. Do you want the references at the end of the question or at the end of the paper? I am not fussy at all. I know some lecturers are very pedantic with that and they want it at the end of each question. I really don't mind because I know you all come with different experiences, different ways that you've done it in the past. It honestly doesn't faze me. Diana, do you have any preference for your group? Okay, Diana is also good. So yes, absolutely, as long as it's included. Whether you do it per question or at the end of the paper is entirely up to you. Yeah, it's Frank said at some stage, can you please give guidance on the file name convention? Okay, file name convention. If you could please name your files when you save them with your name and surname first, and then the module code. And then you can add assignment 1 just for absolute 100% yeah, that we know it is yours. Again, this is for marking purposes. It's just so much easier to mark if the files have been named according to your name and then your surname, because that's how our marking lists come up on VC Learn. They're sorted alphabetically. I don't think they're sorted alphabetically on surname, actually, or are they? Actually, they are. They actually are. So sorry, surname name, and then module code. Um, Sorry, Frank, can you reverse that? Can you reverse that? So surname, name, module code, assignment number. Perfect. Yes. Um, Student number, Alex, it's really difficult because I then have to go and look up your student number and then see who you are. Um, our mark sheets, our student number is in the third or the fourth column, so it really becomes a nightmare to look it up. I know that the public universities, your student number is everything, and everything is filed according to that. But our mark sheets aren't; they're still quite personal, so they come out as in the order of your surname, your name, and then your student number. So if you wouldn't mind just doing it for like that, and then obviously the module code and assignment number will help me to file them correctly once they come in. So thank you for that. Thanks. It's a good question. Um, on your cover page, obviously your personal details, again, who you are, what the module code is, your lecturer name, please, that's quite important, especially because we have two, not lecturers, we are online tutors, apologies, should say OT name. And then please can you number your pages? Not It's not actually so crucial because we never really print them. I don't know if Diana prints them, but anyway, it's a good habit to get into. When you do paragraph, when you type a paragraph, your spacing, I know a lot of people use 1.5 is good. Again, it's easy on the eye. Mersha, the table of contents, Frank, yes, contents, yeah, sorry, I did. Again, that is your preference. I never look at a contents page. I have to be really honest. When you're marking between 50 and 60 assignments, you really just want to get to the first question and start marking. So leave out the contents page. I'm happy with that. Diana, again, I'm not too sure what your requirement is. If you want to quickly let us know. Melissa, good question. Arial 12 point, perfect. 1.5 line spacing, perfect. You do not have to justify the content. You can do it, you can keep it left aligned. Okay. Yeah, and each new question on a new page, please, that helps again for marking. And yeah, if any comments want to be made, etc., etc. What I have done for this assignment, and I'm not too sure your previous assignments, how they've been uploaded, but I've uploaded a digital, yes, Diana, I mark online as well. Um, Content page not crucial, but can include, yeah, okay, I agree with Diana. You go with what helps you. Um, with regards to, where was I? Mm, oh yes, the marking. So I also mark online, and I've created digital rubrics for each student. So when you get your assignment back, it will, your result, your mark, your final mark will be on the top right hand corner of the cover page, but the rest of the marking will be on a rubric that will be attached to your assignment. So if you want to just see where you got, where you gained and where you lost marks. And if I really feel it's necessary to pass a comment in terms of either, really positive, or work work needs to still be done, then I will pass a comment or feedback. But generally, the rubric provides the feedback. So yeah, that's kind of how the marking is going to get done. Any questions regarding the logistics, the formatting, how it's marked, anything like that? Blaine, under my modules, I'm enrolled in 2 APP modules. Oh goodness. Blaine, upload to, because I don't think you're in my group. Are you in Diana's group? So you can just upload, although I wouldn't know which module that would be. I think Diana's group too. But yes, maybe to be safe, upload to both. um, oh, okay. No, then, well, yeah. You know what? At the end of the day, we'll find it. If you've uploaded it, we'll find it. I always just tell my undergrad students, just take a screenshot that it's done. In case anything happens, you have proof. Melissa says, do we need to attach the rubric? No, you do not have to attach the rubric. I have the one that I've created will automatically attach to your assignment. So you don't have to attach any rubric. You just upload your assignment, your Word document. Oh yes, please convert it to PDF before you upload it. Again, that just makes the formatting easier. It's easier to scroll up and down, and yeah. So just please do that. Melissa, Mersha, you have your hand up.
Hi. When you were talking before you read Diane's comment, you were saying something about you created a link on VC Learn. That's what you were saying. I'm not sure if you remember.
Oh, thank you. Yes. Well, that was basically about the rubric. So what I did was there's a digital rubric attached to each of your assignment links. So when you upload your assignment, when I mark it, there will be a digital rubric that I will just put, what's the word, indicate the marks on that. That's what I wanted to say. Thanks, Mersha. Thanks for that. Okay, any other questions around the sort of generic in-house logistics before we actually start with specific questions? No, we're all good. Great. It's going to sound like I'm in a rush through this, but I see we're already on 20 past 8. I don't want to keep anybody later, but I will um, do this as quickly as I can. But as I said, please stop me if you do not understand. Okay, so let's get to question 1.1. 1.1 is really taking the two first classical philosophies that we had a look at, the main schools of thought of idealism and realism. And the question requires of you to compare these two, well, first of all, to explain them or describe them. So 6 marks are then allocated to you explaining idealism and realism. I'll take it as 3 marks each. 2 marks will be allocated to the resources that you've used for question 1.1. And then 2 marks are for comparing these two philosophies metaphysically. In other words, how do they see the nature of being? What is reality? What is the nature of reality? So compare them. That's for 2 marks, and then you get another mark if you provide a good example. And then there's 2 marks for comparing these two philosophies epistemologically, and in other words, in terms of how do they see knowledge? How is knowledge acquired? What is knowledge? What are reliable beliefs? What are sources of knowledge, etc., etc. So that would be um, the epistemological comparison, and again, a mark for giving a good example. Gareth is asking the question, is the example taken from your discipline? If you are if you are lecturing already, or you have a discipline of interest, I know I had quite a few emails this week of people asking me, how do we approach our assignments if we're not actually lecturing? Preferably, it is better to use examples from within your discipline if you are already if you are in education or lecturing or anything, or if you're not, then select a discipline or a subject interest that interests you, or that you would be interested in pursuing lecturing, if that makes sense. But it's always good to make it relevant to what you are doing, because then it makes it more real, if that makes sense. Okay, so thanks for that question, Gareth. And then 2 marks you will get for critiquing using idealism education. So critiquing means not just the bad, but the good. So the pros and cons of using idealism in education, and a mark for a good example there. And then 2 marks for critiquing the use of realism, or having the realism approach in education, and a mark there also for a good example. And then once you've kind of like done the 2 philosophies, idealism and realism, you then get awarded 6 marks for choosing one of the 2, and then justifying your choice, how it pertains, or how you think it is the better one of the 2 for higher education in South Africa. Again, you get a mark for a good example there. And then 3 marks of this question is for your essay construction. So into that, it just means, and you'll see all of these questions have essay construction marks allocated. It's really just what your writing style is, sentence construction. Um, Spelling doesn't really count because everybody can check their spelling before they submit. But yeah, it's just really your style of writing. So there's 3 marks awarded for that. Okay, so that's pretty much question 1.1. Not a very complex question. I think the only really thing there you'd have to what you'd have to think about is which of the 2 you would be using, or you feel would justify um, sort of kind of integrating it with higher education in South Africa, or using that as an approach. Okay, any questions, any comments, any unsureties, Mersha?
I'm just gonna put my mic on just to speed it up instead of typing. I hope you don't mind that.
No, not at all. No, not at all. Please do. Thank you.
Okay, so I just wanted to ask something. So in the essay for the first question, they give you some points to like elaborate as to what the essay should be about. So in one of the points, they say to provide a brief description of the originators of the school of thought. So I see here in your infographic, it says the core elements of idealism and realism. That's more or less the next point. So, do we still add the first point as per what's in our question?
Yeah, you're asking a really good question, and this is exactly the reason why I chose to unpack the rubric and the mark allocation the way that I've done, because I think, yeah, I think what happens with a lot of these assignments is that they change rubrics, but they don't necessarily go and have a look at the content or the instruction part. So yes, I see they do ask for an explanation or whatever of the originators, but that would then be covered in your 3 marks of what is idealism. So who was the father of idealism? And really, I don't expect you to go into great detail as to where and who and how and what he was. Really, just who is he, and then just in a very short, well, 2 sentences, what are the core elements of idealism, and then realism as well. So I don't know if that does that answer your question.
Yes, it does, because I have started this question. So I did go a bit in detail with that in terms of the first 2 points on our question page. So explaining who is the father of idealism and stuff like that, and also the core elements. So is it fine if I leave it that way?
Absolutely fine. You're probably
Okay.
going to score your 3 marks like for each really quickly, but
That's okay.
no, and that actually raises another point for me. And again, Diana, you're welcome to comment on this from your personal kind of perspective. But I am not. I don't. Um, if you have given a whole lot of information that is not necessary, I don't allow that to count against you, if that makes sense. So Moshe, in your case, if you've now already done a whole lot on the originators of the schools of thought, and it's really only for 3 marks, it's not an issue. Okay, if as long as there's 3 marks there, then it's absolutely fine.
Yeah, because you
Yeah,
see,
as I
like
say,
the problem is the word count. Like if you don't elaborate these things, then you don't meet the word count requirements of 1 2 to 1 6. So it's actually a good thing to speak about it because it also does show your understanding and the fact that you've researched. So yeah, I just wanted to find out about that. One more question before I leave you.
no,
Um,
all good.
Oh, you were talking about the discipline just now, so we must obviously relate it to our discipline. So I am not an facilitator yet. I am actually a school teacher. So if my discipline were to be English, would that be fine that I speak or relate it to English?
Absolutely perfect. Absolutely
Okay.
perfect. Any subject within the education arena. So that's absolutely fine. It does not have to. Obviously, there has to be a slight. What's the word? Slight slant or filter on higher education. But if you are teaching English or whatever subject you're teaching at school, I mean the concepts are the same. You're just aiming your example at a sort of higher level of thinking. But I'm not going to penalize you if you're giving examples school based if that's where you're at. Um, yeah, look, this is a higher sort of tertiary qualification, but it's very difficult to relate it to, to examples in a lecture room if you haven't actually been in a lecture room. But um, yeah, look, the basics are going to be the same if that makes sense. And it's the mark allocation, it's 1 mark. So I'm not going to really not be pedantic about that. So if it's
Okay,
a good
thank you.
example and it fits in with the philosophy, I'm 100% okay with that. Diana says she agreed. Students may provide depth in order to show their understanding, but may also answer the points where possible applicable. Yes, 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 yes. So it's more about your understanding. And if you can apply that to a school subject or a university subject, really it's about application. So I'm good with that. Okay, any other questions on 1.1? Can we move on to 1.2? Okay, so I'm going to move on to 1.2. 1.2 is about the 3 different methods of inquiry. The Socratic method, Plato's guided discovery, and Aristotle's deductive reasoning. So, and please don't make the mistake. I had students last year, there was a very similar question, and they went and described all 3. So just the idea is to choose one and then to describe that method. In other words, what is it? How does it work? Um, and then, so that's for 4 marks. And then for 2 marks, you explain, you justify why you chose that particular method of inquiry. And again, here, be creative. It could just be because you find that you easily can apply this method in your classroom or your lecture room, or it fits in perfectly with your discipline, whatever your motivation is for selecting that method. Again, 2 marks you will get for your resources, 4 marks for the activity that you've chosen and how it aligns with the inquiry method. And obviously, it has to align with the method of inquiry. It has to align with, obviously, with your discipline. So you'd have to say this activity is within XYZ discipline, and also how it aligns with the time. So they've given you a time frame of between 20 and 30 minutes. So it's not a whole lesson. I'm not expecting a lesson plan. I'm expecting an activity within a lesson plan, if that makes sense. So I don't expect you to give me the objectives and the rationale and the intro and the body and the conclusion. And I just want one activity that you are going to apply or carry out within your class or lecture, um, and using that particular method of inquiry that you've chosen, and then how that will aligns with your discipline. And then that's for 4 marks. And then for 4 marks, you describe how this is actually going to play out. So what the teacher will be doing, what the student will be doing, so basically, yeah, like in a linear timeline, kind of how it's going to be played out. And then 2 marks is just a conclusion. So just wrapping it up. And
Ma'am, how are
again,
you?
maybe I'm good, thanks, Claire. How are you? Is it Claire? No, it's not Claire speaking. Who's speaking?
Hi, how are
It's
you?
Is it Mersh? Hello, hello. Who's
Hello, can you
speaking?
hear me?
We can hear you. Do you have a question? No. Okay, so as I said, 4 marks for describing how this activity will be conducted, 2 marks for a conclusion, and then again 2 marks awarded for the construction of your essay. Very straightforward, really nice question. You can really use your creativity here. It does not have to be an activity that has ever been designed or created or done before. It is something that you can completely fabricate yourself. It really just has to be in line with your discipline again and with the method of inquiry. Yes, is it Cloney?
Yes, it is,
Cloney?
Cloney. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Yes. What is your
Okay.
question?
So, as I was reading, I was wondering, if I choose a method of inquiry, am I then, my activity, is it actually teaching the students about the method of inquiry somehow, or um, am I somehow making my activity one that makes it be based on the method of inquiry for them to learn another subject? So maybe the way I make the activity will cause them to use the process of the method of inquiry as they learn subject X, or a topic in the discipline.
Very good question. No, it's the latter. So you're not going to be teaching them a particular method of inquiry. You're going to be using that as your tool in order to teach them a skill or whatever it is
Okay.
within your discipline, yeah, that you want to teach.
Oh,
So yeah, so with the Socratic method, look, it's not, it sounds easy, but it's not that easy. But the point is, like, you have to come up with an activity where, for example, in the Socratic method, the whole idea, the whole purpose about the Socratic method is really just to get the student to uncover and unpack underlying assumptions and underlying beliefs and to have a deeper understanding of something. So you could start with
okay.
something, um, I don't know, there's so much that you can use in South African context, really, for the Socratic method, because we have so many cultural bias and cultural assumptions that you could actually use there. Um, but yeah, again, it's going to depend on your discipline. And then with the Plato guided discovery, because that method is more focused on the knowledge is inherent to the student. So he's got the information, you just have to guide him to actually recollect it or discover it. So again, you could focus on I don't know, that might be a little bit more complex, but it's slightly that is a slightly more a broader approach than the Socratic method. So you don't have to be too specific. And then with the deductive reasoning, it's yeah, you just have a look at where you can give them where there's a major premise. this is like this. There's a minor premise. This is like this, and then they have to draw a conclusion. So that probably of the three would probably be the easiest one. Again, it depends on your discipline and the kind of information or knowledge, skill that you want them to learn. But bear in mind the focus is on the actual activity, not so much on your end goal. Obviously, there has to be an end goal, but if your activity aligns with the discipline and the what's the word? The focus that you want your, because none of these methods actually have, they're not supposed to have, it's supposed to be guided. It's not supposed to be, okay, that is my end goal. That's what I want you to achieve at the end. It's more of a helping them, their thought processing, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah.
Does that help? Okay, great.
Yes. Yes. Thank you.
Diana says it would be an activity that demonstrates how you interpret them. Yes, as a tool, absolutely. Mersha, so we are using one of the methods. Yes, exactly that. You're going to choose a method and you're going to use it as a teaching strategy in order to do a particular activity with your students. Okay, so don't overthink it. It's yeah. Don't overthink it too much, because the actual inquiry methods can be complex. So try and make them kind of as simple as you can. Obviously, for the level of students that you're dealing with, but yeah, you don't want to overcomplicate it and then not quite get your meaning across, or your method. Okay, any other comments or questions related or regarding question 1.2? Okay, then I'm going to move on to question 2. Question 2 deals with pragmatism and existentialism. Both of them are student-centered. Pragmatism is one of the normative philosophies, and is existentialism one of the continental philosophies. I know we've done pragmatism already. We haven't really looked at normative philosophies, but it is actually a normative philosophy. The main difference, you would have to, you would investigate or read up about them. The important thing here, though, is to identify a challenge that is very specific to the South African context. So in education, that is. And sure, yeah, you can, there's so many, there are so many, lovely English there, Dr. Shani. There are so many challenges in higher education in South Africa. To name a few, just accessing of higher education, the equity of it, funding, people not being able to afford it. Sure, yeah, the whole transformation and decolonization sort of space that we're moving into, the need for diversity in our higher education institutions. Yesterday I was thinking of so many. Governance and leadership of our higher institutions. That's definitely something. The mismanagement of finances. And then I think one of the biggest, well, not biggest, but definitely one of the big problems that we are facing is just keeping up with the global trends, building international relationships, addressing multicultural issues, and attracting international students to our universities. I think that's something we can work on. And then just research and innovation, we're not really on the front end of that. So, do I need to move the slides? Alec, can you move the slides, or have you? I'm on question 2 now, Alex. Yeah, I've used. How big does the issue need to be? Anka, good question. Please, again, don't complicate your life. Even if you choose an issue, try and simplify it or break it down and get the thing for me is not about the issue that you choose. Obviously, it has to be an issue, but it's not about the complexity of the issue. It's more about how you're going to then apply your chosen philosophy, either pragmatism or existentialism, to that issue. So again, don't don't complicate your life. Make it simple. An issue nonetheless, but so what you would have to do is, first of all, identify a challenge. So think about higher education in South Africa. And I've mentioned a few challenges that we have. And if you come up with a different one, that's fine. If you use one of those, but you subdivide it a bit, that's also fine. And think about it and think about what that challenge really is about. What is the actual challenge? And you don't have to come up with a solution, but then you select either pragmatism or existentialism, bearing in mind that pragmatism has more to do with practical application of what a student learns, but practical application in real life situations. In other words, what is relevant in the here and now. Pragmatism is also very focused on diversity and on establishing or building or creating or developing, I should rather say, critical thinking skills. Whereas existentialism, look, they're both student-centered, but existentialism is more about subjective experiences, creating your own reality, that you're responsible for creating your own meaning. It's about being more authentic, your freedom of choice, reflecting on choices made, reflecting on your meaning making, and embracing issues and ambiguity as opportunities for growth. So those are in a nutshell, really the differences between the two. So once you've selected a challenge, have a look at which of those two philosophies would be best able to address that challenge. And then, so your 5 marks, you identify the challenge and obviously explain it and why is it a challenge. And then 4 marks for describing the philosophy that you've chosen. And then 4 marks to explain the value of that particular philosophy within higher education. And again, 2 marks for examples relevant to South Africa. 2 marks again for resources, and then the 8 marks is for why and how you apply this chosen philosophy to the challenge that you've identified. And then again, 2 marks for relevant examples. It is a bit of a meatier one, this one, and it's going to take a little bit more thought than the first two, than question 1.1 and 1.2. But it can be, yeah, it doesn't have to be complex. If you follow the mark allocation, you follow the rubric, stick to the questions that you need to answer, as opposed to, going off on a tangent about the philosophy. Remember, it's only 4 marks to describe the philosophy. The rest, how that philosophy, the value of using that philosophy in education, and for those 4 marks, explaining the value of that philosophy in higher education, you don't touch on the actual challenge as yet. You've selected a philosophy. For example, you say pragmatism, higher education in South Africa. We struggle. Well, okay, let's say you've spoken about something else, but the whole idea about pragmatism is that we are able to provide practical knowledge for our students, and it's not always possible to get them to focus on things that are relevant because it's access and finances, etc., etc. But that if we were able to focus on pragmatism in higher education in South Africa, or use that as our approach, we would be able to develop X, Y, and Z skills in our students. And then you move on and you say, okay, but this is the challenge, and this is how this approach can address that challenge. Mersha says, do you mind repeating the last 3 challenges? Oh, okay, so I can't remember what the last 3 were. I think the last one I said, The last one I spoke about was research. I think that was the last one I said, is that that is definitely one of the challenges in higher education, is that we don't have the funding for cutting edge research in South Africa. And we also don't have adequate support for that. So in terms of higher education, oh, gee, you guys are making notes. I love this. Thank you. But now you're going too fast. I've missed the top ones. But yeah, research innovation is one of the challenges. Decolonization, definitely that, with the whole focus on transforming curriculum, transforming content. We need to diversify our curriculum. It is not, we've touched superficially on it. What they say, we have some of the whistles and the bells, but we have definitely not come anywhere near to diversifying our curriculum content. And our staff, what about the staff? If you go and look at a lot of these public universities, higher education universities, our staff are still not well diversified at all. And the whole idea of promoting inclusivity, we have a long way to go. So that's one of our biggest challenges, I think. And then obviously related to all of that are socioeconomic issues of funding, access. A lot of the students in our country don't have access to higher education, even if they could afford it. And we don't have a very high student retention rate. So our students, our student first year failure rate is really high. And again, it's because they lack adequate support. A lot of our students are first generation students, so parents don't have a clue how to support them. And then the governance, I think that was the other thing I mentioned, the governance, our financial mismanagement and unstable leadership of many of our institutions. Yeah, so yeah, and the the global our global presence is a challenge, because we battle to keep up with global trends, and I don't think we're building enough international relationships, and so we don't really attract international students, and so our higher education is quite exclusive, I suppose, if I have to use that word. I don't like that word, but yeah. Um, those are the basic ones. So, you think of, if you can think of something else or choose one of them or whatever. It is sad, Sonia. It is really sad. But yeah, so you select one of those or some other one, and you choose a philosophy, and you're really just going to tell me how and why this philosophy can be applied and to address this challenge. And again, 2 marks for relevant, good examples. I don't think you need to be too discipline specific with this one, because it's really going to depend on the challenge that you've chosen. But your discipline could still fit under the umbrella of the challenge that you've chosen. Okay, so that is question 2. Any you guys are good, Rick, listing all the challenges. Oh, sorry, Gareth. Yes, you asked that question higher up. How many resources? In actual fact, I think each question, or most of the questions, actually say how many resources. But I don't I don't go through an assignment and count resources, because we're all adults and we're all postgrad and you all know how to do this. But I think an average of between 2, 3. I wouldn't go less than 2. I would average on 3. I think I know some of them actually give how many resources you're supposed to have. But just have a look on the assignment. I do remember seeing somewhere, not with all the questions, but with some of them. They said 4 more. Oh, thank you, Sonia. Okay. Okay, so 4. Thanks, Eve. All right, so it is 4 more. Sorry, I think I'm still in undergrad mode. Yeah, I've just done a session with the fourth years, and so yeah, theirs is 2 and 3. Okay, so at least 4. Okay, and again, I'm not going to look at it 4 per question. So if you have 4 at the end and you've in-text reference well to all 4, then I'm okay with that. You're going to find you're going to need more than 4 anyway with all these questions. Okay, then question 3 is African philosophy. My personal favorite. So you are going to be, you'll get 3 marks for explaining African philosophy and then 3 marks for explaining Ubuntu, because that is what they want you to particularly give reference to. Again, 2 marks for your resources. These 2 marks for resources are actually, besides the fact that they're allocated for your references at the end, it also has to do with your referencing. So, if you're making a lot of mistakes with your in-text referencing, then that'll be deducted off those marks. As I said, if there's no in-text referencing or like serious errors, then you can lose between 5 and 10%. And if it's like really, really bad, then you will be flagged for plagiarism. But I know that's not going to happen with you guys. So for question 3, then you're going to get 6 marks will be allocated for the way that you have explained why we need to include Ubuntu, or the philosophy of Ubuntu, into higher education lecturing. I think this question actually, it's an article that you're writing, or evidence-based article. There we go, suitable for quarterly publication. So, Alex, 19. That's absolutely fine. No, there's no limit. No, there's no limit. Goodness, that's fantastic. The more, the better. The wider your reading is. So, okay, so that's 6 marks of why we need to be looking at African philosophy, and particularly to Ubuntu. That's the whole thing of I am because we are, and this whole thing of harmony and community. And then 4 marks for practical relevant examples that lecturers can use in their lecturing. So this is not a lesson, or it's not an activity, and it's not a essay, really. It's an article. You're trying to convince higher education lecturers in their teaching and learning space to be including African philosophy and Ubuntu, and you're telling them why, and you're also giving them some practical examples as to how they can actually use it. So here you do not have to be discipline specific. You can just speak, it can just be in general as to how you can include this or use this approach in lecturing. And then again, 2 marks for your essay construction. Any questions on question 3? Thanks, Diana. Thanks. Is Alex one of your sausages? I shouldn't call you guys sausages. You're postgrads. Definitely not sausages. Okay. Anything else that you'd like to ask, or that you're not sure of? This is your moment. Nicole.
Good evening, Dr. Shani. Thank you for actually breaking down this assignment, because when I looked at it, I actually thought I don't even know where to start. I just feel like, the way you've broken it down is great, and it makes it seem quite simple. But, in terms of the information that was provided to us, I feel like I'm having to teach myself a philosophy degree first before I can actually go and answer your question. I mean, they seem so straightforward. Describe the epistemological and analytical comparison, but I mean, yes, I feel like I've got to go learn a philosophy degree to actually just get going with these questions. I just, I feel like the information provided is a little bit inadequate. And you refer to the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, but yes, I mean, to make head or tail of what they're trying to say there, I don't know. I don't know. I just
Shame,
find
Nicole. I really feel your pain. I really, really feel your pain. I think all you need to and I think this is why what I like about this assignment is that yes, it refers to quite a lot of different types of philosophies, but 90% of the marks or 80% of the marks are really allocated to your application. So if you just can understand 2 or 3 core elements of a specific philosophy, then you just wing it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but
You
that's the
just
challenge, is to try and understand those philosophies. I mean, this is sometimes the first time we come in across these philosophies.
Yes,
And,
I
you
hear
know, like
you.
I said, the reference is Stanford Encyclopedia, but I mean, who actually understands this Stanford Encyclopedia unless you've got some background in philosophy? I mean, if it's your first time coming across it, yeah, it's very, very challenging to understand. Um, I don't know. It's been very frustrating.
Shame, man. No, I don't want you to feel like that. Let me see if I can help unpack it a little bit more. Um, if we look at, if we look at, yeah, there are some good videos on YouTube. I agree, Sonia. And but listen, I'm not minimizing your feelings of overwhelmness. I completely get it. I was there myself, and it's, you know, it's only, yeah. No, so I do relate 100%. But if we if the question says, okay, I know you now made reference to the epistemological analytical comparison. That does sound rather hectic, but all it really, analyzing something is really just comparing it in terms of the similarities as well as the differences. So you're going to, you know what, use Google in this case, because it's 3 marks to explain what is idealism. And I mean, even if you go back and listen to um, some of the recording, or I think the first week's recording as to what is idealism and what is realism, um, you know, even if you just say the most important differences is that idealism focuses or emphasis is on ideas, um, that you reason your knowledge and your wisdom, and that there are universal truths that govern the world. You use critical thinking and reflection and questions and analysis, and that is how you create. So epistemology is a branch of philosophy, and maybe this is where you're getting confused. Epistemology refers to the nature of knowledge. How do I know that I know that I know? So how do I know what I know? And if you look at idealism, they say we know what we know through our thought processing and our thinking and our reasoning and our reflecting and critical thinking. Um, I'm making this really simply now, but I'm hoping this is going to help you to understand. Metaphysically, that's a branch of philosophy that refers to the nature of my reality, or the nature of reality, our existence. So how do I know I exist? How do I know this is real? And then for idealism is, I know that I'm real because I can think. I am because I think, and that famous um, goodness, now I've just gone blank. Socrates or no, yes, no, Plato. Sorry, Plato, Socrates, one of the two, probably Socrates. But anyway, so the point is that that is what that means. It's really just, what is the differences? What are the differences, and what are the similarities between idealism and realism in terms of how they believe, or how they understand us to gain knowledge, that is the epistemology, and how do they understand us as what is our reality, what is existence all about, and that is metaphysics. I don't know if that has helped you. Has that helped? um yeah, I think Nicole is referring, sorry, Nicole, yes, no, you go.
No, it is helpful, but I'm still finding I have to go and teach myself philosophy, and then, you know, so to just go and answer these questions, yeah, the time it takes to go and try and understand, then apply it, um, eh, yeah, it's a bit unrealistic if you're still working full time, to try and teach yourself all this stuff in your spare time and then now go and answer questions to apply it.
Yeah,
But
I understand what you're saying, and I read now what Frank is saying, and I mean it is, if you go and have a look at notational hours of these modules, it involves more than just, you know, sitting down and obviously doing the assignment, and I know that is a challenge because this is you know, a distance course, and everyone works as well. But you know, the what I do want to say, and I said it at the beginning, don't overcomplicate this, because at the end of the day, I don't expect you to be able to be the expert in philosophy. For me, it's about having an idea, and no matter how vague that is, of the different philosophies that have had an impact in education, and that um, I mean, we are practicing philosophy all the time. We're just not aware of it because it hasn't been categorized for us in that way. But if you stand in front of a class in a school or a lecture room and you are teaching through the filters and perspective of one or two or three types of philosophies, mostly eclectic. There's not, we don't really use just one at a time. But the thing is that we're not aware of it, because at no point, you know, in definitely not in teacher education, did you have to actually understand your philosophy or all the philosophies that exist. So I do understand, and that is why I also say, um, do what you can. And I I really, and I don't know about Diana, but don't mark strictly with the first assignment. Because it is a foreign subject for a lot of us, and it's so gray. Even, I mean, even I'm sure if you spoke to the other people on this on this session or in this course that have PhDs, even after a PhD, it's still vague. It's still gray, but it's, you can wing it, if that makes sense.
But yeah, I just feel
Yeah.
like the lecturing notes from your guys' side can be a bit more, you know, not just a link to the Stanford Encyclopedia. It, like you've broken it down tonight, is very helpful. But why isn't that like on uh, PowerPoint presentations, or you know, I, it's just that that basis isn't there. I don't feel like we're given the foundation to build. It's just a link to, uh, yeah, these maybe blogs, or it's even some articles I can't open. Either you got to purchase the article, or yeah, it's just I find the information we're given, and then to from which to work is very, very limited. But yeah,
Are
okay, I'm
you,
gonna stop complaining.
no, shame, no, but are you referring to the articles that are listed in the module guide, the module
Yes.
outline?
Yeah,
Okay,
and
you
those
see,
in the learning resources.
uh, I can take this up with our national, you know, our central academic team. I have absolutely no input with that at all.
Oh,
And in actual fact, to be very honest, I hardly actually even look at those articles,
oh,
simply because, yeah, because of their, yeah, that some of them don't even actually relate to the learning units the way that
yeah.
they've, yeah, no, I'm completely with you. And I think we actually had this discussion in our very first session. I don't know if you were in on that session, but it's,
No, I missed the first one, unfortunately.
okay, yeah, because I definitely alluded to that, because I know for myself, from in the past, yeah, I just kind of gone with researching my own thing. You know what I am going to suggest, and oh, I'm probably going to get shot in the foot 50,000 times for this, but it might just help um, uh, get a bit of a better grasp of philosophy in general. Oh, gee, and I really hope I'm not going to get in trouble with this, but you know what? It's out there. If you haven't tried Chat GPT yet, um, give that a shot, and just ask it to give you a simple version of philosophy, all the different, um, yeah. I don't know how else. I just know I know of a colleague of mine that uses it, and she said it's really helped her to understand her module a lot more. I haven't myself tried it specifically with philosophy. I've looked up some other things, but it seems to explain things in really good layman's kind of like terminology. So unless, Nicole, I really don't want you to go away feeling so overwhelmed and confused. I'm very happy if you want to either stay on after the call, the session, or if you want to email me specific things that
No,
you
it's fine. I'm
that you're
just
not
finding it
sure of.
more challenging than my master's, honestly. And I just think it's because the information that we, provided is just very lacking. But it's fine. What you've said tonight is very helpful, and I'll look into that other thing that you suggested, the Chat GPT. It's just
GPT,
so
yeah,
that you
just
can
try that.
get your head around what they're saying, because sometimes it is quite complex and quite involved. And yeah, if it's your first time coming across it, it is difficult. And yeah, videos are great and YouTube is great, but you also don't know what a credible, I mean, when you search videos, you don't know what a credible video is. That's why I like to use journal articles.
Yeah,
But
that's true. Yeah. Yeah, look, it is a gamble. Fortunately, the level of philosophy or the depth that we need to know for this particular course, most of the videos kind of cover it. So,
okay,
we don't really get into the nuts and bolts of any one of these philosophies at all. We just skimming the top of the surface, and we're looking at
yeah,
it as
maybe I am
simple as possible.
overcomplicated in it then.
Shame, but I mean, again, it's because you don't, you haven't got any frame of reference for this. So I get it. I do get it. And please, when you, even if it's over the weekend, and that applies to all of you, if you have a question, please email me. I'm sure Diana would also be okay with, receiving emails, and we'll help where we can. Because the idea is not to catch you out, it's not to trip you up or, confuse you. It's really just to help you to understand that we are practicing philosophy all the time when we are, no matter actually what we're doing, even if we're just doing normal day-to-day stuff, we all have a philosophy that we are ascribing to. And so, yeah, it's really just understanding that, I suppose. Maybe we need to do a bit of Socratic guided questioning here, like what is it that is your underlying philosophy? But yeah, so just, take a deep breath and have a glass of wine and then just start typing and see where it goes. Okay, so thanks, Diana. Yeah, I know that Diana is also very of the prescribed texts in units 1, 2, and 3. I'm assuming you're referring to the articles. For every module, for every learning unit, they've got articles that have been linked to it, so you can go and read them. Some of them are useful, some of them are, I must say. I know the one with John Dewey, and there was another one. They're quite useful. But other than that, just do a Google search, even if you just get the basics, then you understand it and then you start writing. Um, yeah, again, I don't want to make this complicated for you guys. Okay, it's already almost, it's 7:10. So if there's no more comments or anything, okay, so there's a good one, Nicole, if you want to try Abigail from Philosophy Tube. If you want to try that, maybe just go and watch some of her. But the YouTube ones, the ones I've seen are good. So it's just understanding it on an entry level. That's all we want, entry level philosophy. Great. Thank you all. Please message me, email me if you have any problems, but all the best for finalizing this assignment. Don't overthink it. Just enjoy it. Just enjoy it. And we won't have a session next week. It'll be a recorded session, but then I will catch up with you again the following Thursday. And if you're going away or having a good long weekend, enjoy the winter. And yes, thanks everyone. Thanks, Diana. Thanks for being in on the session.